Welcome to The Range Brief with Blackwing. I'm your host, Jared Ramey, and today I am joined by the president, Mark Gore. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and we are talking about changes to the NFA, taxless suppressors, taxless short-barreled rifles, and what this means for you and when the timeline is. We think this is important to get out to you guys, mainly because it's not real crystal clear. There's no great source to go to and get the down low, so you're going to get it today.
Well, some of it is crystal clear.
Some of it is crystal clear, but the third order effects of all of this are not so great. All right, but Mark, what do we know? What happens July or June? Oh my God.
Wow, not even close. January
1st, 2026. What happens?
So this law that is passed reduces the tax stamp on suppressors, short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, and AOWs, any other weapons, from $200 to $0. And so that, again, goes into effect January 1st and will be in effect, effectively permanently thereafter. And that is for both Form 4s and Form 1s. And what that means is that will be for all transfers, basically, whether you're buying it from a dealer or another individual, or you're manufacturing it yourself. So kind of an across-the-board tax reduction.
Tax elimination. Which is great. We think that's awesome, right? So this is going to lower the bar of entry to anybody who's wanted a suppressor, right? We're going to save $200 off the cost immediately. And we should see a huge jump in popularity. And hopefully we see a lot of new innovative things come out of this now that we've eliminated this tax.
That's great. I mean, suppressors have had, NFA world in general, but definitely suppressors have had huge growth over the last, especially, I'd say the last 5-10 years, but especially the last 2-3 years has been just insane.
Yep. I think the ease of applying has really been a game changer. I mean, before it was a painful process, going to the sheriff's department, getting your fingerprints rolled, having your local magistrate sign off on it and all this other stuff. They've kind of pared that down, but unless you knew somebody who was hip to the game, it was almost impossible to do on your own.
Yeah, back in the day. Yep. And then it got simpler, turnarounds got faster, and that really just made everything very
supercharged.
Supercharged. That's what I was going for, yeah.
Yeah, man.
And then I think we're going to hit turbocharge now after this stamp reduction. I think you're going to see, like you said, just very little barrier of entry, and a lot of people are going to be jumping in this game. And that's both from the consumer side, more people buying them, and then also from the manufacturer side. We're going to see a lot more manufacturers making suppressors, a lot more gun companies. I feel like just about every gun company now will make suppressors, and just a lot of added capacity there in the long run.
Yeah, it'll be great. I mean, you'll see manufacturers pairing short-barreled rifles with suppressors from the gate, knowing that you're not going to have to pay a $400 tax.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot of great things come out of this. But I think that's more long-term. I think there's some short-term things that people aren't talking about, and that's what we're going to do next. All right, Mark, so what could happen come January 1st?
Yes, what could happen? So what likely will happen is we will see low supply and a lot of the popular suppressor models. So the demand's going to pick up, we expect, quite substantially. When that tax stamp is gone, we're going to have a lot more buyers and a lot more filers. And so the guys that have been around making suppressors, the big brands that make the most popular or the quietest suppressors, we expect that supply to get a lot harder to find. There's just the demand increase, the supply increase isn't going to be able to keep up with that initially. All these manufacturers are already spooling up to be able to create more, but we're thinking that demand is going to likely highly outstrip the supply that's coming in.
Yeah, I mean, we saw this in COVID. People were building up, and manufacturers now, while they are, I would say, of all the ones I've talked to, are reticent to say like, oh yeah, we've committed so much resources to growing or building more. I think we've also learned our lesson. Like, this NFA stuff is so fluid that, barring some extreme circumstance, like they don't want to have a whole bunch of stuff lying around. And you're going to see a lot more dealers now see this as like super lucrative, and there's going to be more dealers taking up that supply along with more customers. So there's just going to be fewer places to get supply, fewer places to see this stuff. So I don't think if you have a good, robust system already, I think you're going to see a lot of new dealers jump on and have trouble getting product. And likewise, even we will probably see a struggle getting some product.
Yeah. And you might say, well, hey, we've got 5 months right now. Why wouldn't the, Silencer Co. just go out and double their capacity right now? I mean, 5 months, they can buy CNC machines, they can train people. And while that's probably true, they've been burnt on this kind of stuff before. And so they're not going to bet the whole ship on increased demand, because we're also guessing, that there's going to be a massive increase in demand. That could not happen, or things could change between now and January, after January. So those guys will be a little bit cautious. I'm sure optimistic, but cautiously optimistic. There's been times in the past where different versions of this law have been close to passing, or has been like on the docket for a long period of time, and NFA demand has just been whiplashing back and forth, and it's pretty difficult as a manufacturer to really keep up with the demand that just is different constantly.
And from the manufacturers that we've talked to, they're going to wait. They're going to see what happens before they really start spooling up on this. I don't think you're going to see this demand catch up. And even what they've quoted is like, we anticipate it being 12 to 15 months before supply like levels out.
Mm-hmm.
You can see stuff again. So with that being said, like if you got your eye on a suppressor, there's a good chance you won't be able to find it. But to me, that is secondary to what I think is more likely to happen and what will be the biggest pain point of everything that's come out of this. And that will be because the tax has been removed, but the requirement to file has basically stayed the same. It will take forever to get your item.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, 2 years ago, it was nothing for a suppressor to take 9 months to get. Before that, my first suppressor took 15 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just kind of the price of doing business, but you also didn't see that much demand because of that. A lot of people weren't willing to wait that long. If the amount of people just do Form 1s, converting their current lower receivers to SBRs, if that is as big as they anticipate it being, that will crash the system on its own.
Yeah.
The system being E-forms. That system is, anyone who's ever done it knows that it is not good.
Pretty antiquated.
It's super old.
Recently updated, but still very old somehow.
Yeah. Somehow it looks like it's running on like Windows 98.
Yeah.
And it is not optimized. So if that crashes it alone, right? So everybody who has bought their suppressors, like let's say from May this year until November, December of what's coming, let's say that's 1 million suppressors. All those people are going to try to file on January 1st. There's no way the ATF can support that. There's no way. And more than that, if the budget cut, which if anybody's not tracking this, right now the proposed budget cut to the ATF is about 29%. And the statistic that you're reading online is they're going to cut the 800 investigators. Now that number is kind of obtuse. It doesn't specify where those investigators are. I'm sure that those 800 are not in the NFA branch, but they're going to be cutting that they're going to cut 500 and plus out of that number. So almost 2/3. If there's fewer people doing the actual background check, combined with a huge surge in demand, combined with a bad system for submitting, like this thing is doomed to fail. Anybody on the outside looking in can tell you this is going to be painful. The estimates that I've gotten from Silencer Shop, and I'm guessing on how the last, optimization went with the ATF when it was supposed to go from months to weeks. Well, it took like 3 months just for that to work right so that you could submit on time to get that wait time. I think it'll be another year-long wait. That's what I'm getting to. If you submit on January 1st, even though there's no cost, it will take you a year before you actually get to take your item home, because I don't think you'll be able to submit on January 1st.
Yeah.
You also, there's no one to check your form, and there's way more people submitting at the same time as you. It's like the perfect storm for government bureaucracy hangups.
Yeah. And a little bit murky, but really kind of like a double-edged sword doing this, because now the government has no funding from tax stamps effectively. So while that money wasn't the $200 tax stamps that were getting paid wasn't going directly to the NFA branch to process these forms, it was going to the government and was helping them to fund their operations. And so now, who knows how government budgeting works, but now they're looking at this branch saying, all right, these guys are making substantially less income, tax dollars. And, is that going to affect their decision making of how they allocate resources and budgeting? Likely.
Yeah, I assure you they're not going to think, oh, if this is a constitutional right, we should really streamline this and make it easy. I think that is naive.
Another difficulty, we just had our Ohio Suppressor Fest here about a month ago, and so we were able to talk to the manufacturers and Silencer Shop and American Suppressor Association. And Silencer Shop had talked to us about how a big issue with the huge increase in forms is the NFA branch, that the ATF doesn't have a way for a form company like a Silencer Shop to mass submit forms. So forms have to be submitted individually, and they can't bulk upload or bulk submit forms. And so, if you think about that, who knows what the number will be, but 10,000 forms or something submitted in the first week, or who knows what that number will be. And then those have to be submitted one at a time and then reviewed one at a time versus being uploaded into the system in spreadsheet with attachments, some other better way for them to get the information to the ATF and then back to the form submitter. It's just a lot of barriers here to make this process efficient and work well for us, for everyone.
Yep. So right now, with the demand being down on suppressors, we're submitting less than we typically would. I would say it still takes the average person to certify their form after Silencer Shop has built it. All you got to do is log back in, certify. That still takes 5 to 10 minutes, no matter what. And that's on a low demand. There's plenty of auditors doing it. The system is not struggling, and it's doing that now.
And that's just to get it submitted, not to get it reviewed or approved or anything. That's just to get it in.
Yep. Just to get in line.
Yeah.
Okay. So we both agree in an attempt to help the NFA, or not help it, discourage it. They've actually made the NFA far more tedious and painful to use.
Yeah.
Okay. So what does this mean long term? And this is this is the real skeptical portion of this. I'm super confident in everything we've just talked about. I know that's going to happen. But what could happen, and this is the more alarming stuff, is now that the government knows this $200 tax stamp, which has existed since 1933 with the advent of the National Firearms Act, a little bit of history here. The whole reason for that $200 tax stamp was really to basically exclude a lot of people from being able to purchase these things. So machine guns, silencers, short-barreled rifles, this was all to discourage crime, violent crime in the 30s, looking at Al Capone, gangsters, stuff like that. And the equivalency in 2025 to that $200 tax stamp is $4,818, which if they put, let's say, the next president, then and it's not a Republican Party, and they institute, well, hey, we're just going to change this to an equivalent of 1933, and they make that tax stamp almost $5,000, that will kill the NFA. It'll be just like the 30s where nobody's buying anything.
Yeah. And in fact, you say that, and someone introduced into the Senate I think this is maybe a week ago or so. So in July, an amendment that would increase the tax stamp from $0 up to $4,709. So $4,709.
Oh,
that's a lot of money.
That will be rapturous for the industry.
Yes. So that sets some precedent for the ability to change that. Now, it was just changed via Congress. So, if they were to, if that was to be attempt to increase that number, to this $4,700 number, they would have to go through Congress more than likely. But the way ATF policies and things have been changed in the past, who knows? There could be an attempt to change that via executive order or for other things. But yeah, it's definitely brought the benefits here of reducing the tax stamp has definitely brought attention to silencers, to the tax stamps. And now there's more opponents to it now that they're like, oh, that's a thing. You can own that.
Yep.
I don't think I like that. So it's definitely bringing it more to the forefront.
Now, the good news is there's quite a few large companies that have filed lawsuits against the government trying to get the NFA removed, appealed, basically, because if there's no tax dollar associated with this tax stamp, then it's literally just a gun registration, which is unconstitutional. So hopefully this can get blown out of the water and we don't have to worry about the NFA in general anymore. And we can buy suppressors the same way we buy firearms. I don't think it's super likely that's going to happen in this presidency, or that this is going to move quickly through the courts and appeals process. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always pessimistic. I didn't think anything related to suppressors was going to pass through as they went through this congressional session. But I mean, it could go through, and there is merit to that idea. The American Suppressor Association, ASA, has said that this is like the solid step towards challenging that framework of the NFA. So that's positive. I mean, they were trying to get it all in one pull with the HPA Act that they were trying to get through. It was going to remove the stamp and the process. So this isn't ideal, but they're not discouraged, and they feel like they have a good legal case here to get it done. And I'm blanking on the terminology, but there's something about like the mass use of a type of firearm, where it's in like general use.
Common use
is a big part of that argument. And suppressors I think it's clear that they're in common use now, even before this reduction to $0. Millions of them out there, and just common for just anyone in the shooting industry. If you don't have them, or not in the industries, anyone that's a shooter, if you don't have one, you probably at least have a friend that does, and you probably shot one, even if you don't own one.
Yeah, and that leads into another argument I've heard, which is, if you have to do this requirements for something that is in common usage and is free to do, you just have to go through the process, that a 10-year, minimum sentence in prison for possessing one of these things without a tax stamp is a cruel and unusual punishment, right?
Yeah.
If all you got to do is go through this arbitrary wait period before your approval, yeah, I think there's some merit to that as well, that you can tie somebody up for 10 years and make them a felon.
Yeah.
For something that's not even a tax evasion at this point.
And that is something that's going to happen post-January, is with a much larger amount of serialized NFA items, registered NFA items. It's going to get confusing out there, because there's going to be people that are going to register their guns, sell them to someone as an SBR, sell them to someone else who doesn't know any better. There's going to be a lot more out there, and people aren't going to be familiar with the process to file a form to transfer registration from one individual to another, or maybe even the requirement to do so. It's going to get a little bit weird out there, and I don't know, the NFA branch is going to have to figure out how to deal with all that.
Don't hold your breath, people.
Yeah. Yep.
So what can you do now? What should you do now? And what are your options, really?
Yeah. I think your options are, you can buy it now and pay the tax stamp. You can buy it now and wait until January 1st, so you don't have to pay for the tax stamp. Or you can wait to buy it on or after January 1st to make your life a little bit easier. So talk me through pros and cons there.
All right. So buy it now, pay the $200 tax stamp. If you want your item quickly, or like relatively quickly, that is the way to go, right? If you want to see your item in 2 weeks, pay it. Upside of that is there's still supply, right? Basically any suppressor you want right now, you can still get it. I think come October, November, people are going to start moving to the second side of this, which is buy and then wait to submit, right? Nobody wants to have their money tied up in an item they can't have. And I think that's kind of why you're not seeing a lot of movement now. But come closer to that actual submission time, I think you'll see that dynamic change. And with that, supply will disappear. And a lot of dealers are going to be pessimistic, I would say, about how much supply they want to bring on going into that. And like I said, the downside to buying it and not paying that tax stamp is it's not that, hey, I got to wait from October to January. It will be, I've got to wait from October to maybe next October.
Yeah.
And I think that's an optimistic timeline. I mean, I really do think the system is going to cripple and wither
And
under
the whole, don't worry, I'll file it like January 1st at 10 a.m. or the 2nd really early so I can get in the front of the line. In our experience, the system will be down for a week at least. It's like it's gonna blow up.
Yep. It'll be a mess. And remember, you're not just fighting people who are buying Form 1s. You are also fighting in this e-form system. You're fighting every dealer who has bought a suppressor from a manufacturer, and that manufacturer is trying to send said item to the dealer. You're also fighting all of the people who want to do a Form 1 on a receiver or, short-barreled shotgun, anything that they're just trying to convert on their own, which they can do from home and bog the system down. Like it's going to be the Wild West on e-forms, and e-forms is not prepared.
Yes. So that's the worst option. Or would you say the wait to buy option would be worse?
I think the wait to buy is, then you really know that you're going to be waiting. I mean, there's no way to guarantee that you'll even get the suppressor you want. And if you're not real particular, maybe that is a good option. Feel it out. But let's say it takes that year for supply to catch up, and it takes a year to submit. Now to buy a suppressor, you're at 2 years wait.
Yeah.
I would say that's not an option. If you want a suppressor at all and you're willing to wait 2 years, then wait your 2 years and see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any advantage to doing that right now.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think if you wait, you're like, I'm just going to wait to buy it, and you go to buy in January or February, there will absolutely be suppressors available, but likely not the one that you would really want if you had your pick. You might be buying from a company that just started making them, or you're buying old models or less popular models from major manufacturers. It's just not going to be a good selection, more than likely.
And the other part of this is all of the accessories to suppressors. So if the demand goes up 300%, which I've heard optimistic expectations, well, that means that manufacturers will only make suppressors because that's where the money and the margin is. All the accessories will be unobtainium. Right now, there's still a huge backlog on getting mount adapters. This is even from the secondary aftermarket. People like Reardon, who just make mounts for suppressors, like they're already backed up. Manufacturers they're going to be inundated. I mean, it's just going to be tough. It is going to be a tough year for suppressors, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. So an overview of what you can do if you want to buy a suppressor, I would say buying now and paying the tax stamp is the way to go. If you're willing to do that, that's what we see 80% of people do right now.
Probably more like 90%. Because once you're aware of all the stuff that can happen, people are like, oh God, screw it. Let's pay my $200.
Yep. And then the other options, not as good of an idea. And then I think another kind of point in review here is, while we've talked about it's going to get crazy in January, you're not going to be able to find anything, but then the manufacturers might not be making much, or they might be trying to make it, but they can't, there is a lot of unknown there. But what we do know for sure is it will be terrible to submit a form. It's, you could look at, it might take days to submit. It could take weeks. Honestly, it could take months to get your form submitted, depending on how bad this goes. Back when this, as Jared was talking about earlier, when this system was overhauled last, it would not be unusual for us to be blocked out from submitting a form for a week. And that wasn't like that happened one time. It happened multiple times. And
it took an average of 20 to 30 minutes to submit one form. Mm-hmm. That you would be on the phone with a customer from start of login to submission. And then half the time it would time out and you'd have to redo that.
And the tax stamp was $200 back then. Yep. Now it's free. It's going to be free.
And there'll be less auditors to actually review your form.
Yeah.
And less money for them to pay a tech firm to fix this website.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the perfect storm of like government ineptitude, and the consumer will pay for it. The citizen will pay for it.
Absolutely. And then I want a little bonus content here at the end.
Ready.
What are your thoughts on the used market for NFA items?
That's a great question. That was actually the thing I was the most excited about. If, the hypothetical where the NFA was basically killed and they took suppressors off, is it would open up a huge sector of the market for people who have suppressors they don't want anymore, or, just suppressors you don't use. You could sell them to your friend. You could sell them to a store like us.
And you're talking about if there was no registration,
If
right?
there was no registration.
Yeah.
I think this is a step in the right direction. The problem is that dealers still probably won't want to do it because there's a manual form that you're going to have to submit.
Yeah.
It's going to be a huge paper trail here. So if you're not familiar with this, you don't get to use e-forms once somebody has an approved item, because people don't have dealer accounts. People are citizens, right? So they don't have any way to move that inventory or item onto a dealer's without literally building a packet and submitting it to the ATF.
Yep.
And because of that, I still think, while I think it would be awesome, is that the used market is still dead.
Yep.
There's just no fluid way to get rid of them or move them around at a cost efficient way.
Yeah. And an easier summary for that is if it's a dealer who has set up and has their dealer eForms account, they can file an electronic form with the ATF, and that is much quicker. That current turnaround time is 2 days to 2 weeks. But if it's initiated from an individual, then you have to file a paper form, and that takes, I can't remember if that's 3 or 6 months right now.
The last one I sent out took 3 months.
And so that could mean, if we're talking the 2 weeks goes to a year, then I don't know what 3 months goes to. So unfortunately, just the way that the government system is set up is, if an individual is transferring it, even if the individual is transferring it to a dealer, there's a dealer in the middle, you still have to go the paper route. Individual to individual, individual to dealer, still paper, still slow. So that's kind of what Jared was talking about there.
And it really, the scary part is because it is still the same penalty for not having a tax stamp, but really the limitation is submitting properly. Like it is painful to submit already. If you know what you're doing, it's still a pain in the ass. For somebody whose family member passes away and they have to do a Form 5.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't know how long a Form 5 will take. Oh.
Yeah.
Terrifying to think about. And then you have all these people who are like, okay, what do I do with this item that is sitting around? You know what I mean? And the ATF doesn't have an answer to that.
Cut it up.
Man, this is a downer. This is kind of a sad one. I feel like well, it's important for everybody to know this. Like, there's just no way to deliver this information that isn't a little heartburn inducing.
Yeah. You can't do good without causing harm.
Let's hope,
making things more difficult.
Yep. Let's hope that this is the first big step towards, getting the NFA repealed, and we can look back on this as just one unpleasant memory.
Yeah. And I mean, on the bright side, this is a W, no tax stamp. Form 1s are going to be a lot more advantageous for a lot of people building your weird stuff at home. It's going to get a lot more people into the suppressor world. It's overall going to be cheaper for all of us that are going to buy more suppressors, SBRs and SBSs. So, it is a win. It's just, it's qualified. There are downsides.
Qualified win.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, if you have any questions, please come see us at Blackwing. We would love you to walk you through the process and explain anything you have questions about. Like, comment, share, do all the things. And if you found this helpful, please let us know. Mark, anything else to say?
Good night.
Good night.